It's spoilers time. Alright. Spoilers. What you want to get into first?
Well, I'll just jump in at the meat, the core, the end of the story. You know.
Go for it.
Well, this is the spoiler, so I mean, Gatsby gets shot at the end. And sitting in the IMAX theater, man, I felt that shot. Like, I don't know what kind of pistol it was, but it was the loudest, like, piercing shot I've heard in a movie. Like, it was just one shot, and it just, audibly, it pierced. Like, I don't know.
Let's go into that deeper.
I felt it.
Because
I felt it.
What Joe's talking about is, towards the end of the movie, there's a huge scene where Gatsby comes out of the water. After everything that's happened, it's been a bad ordeal, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But comes out of the water, Tobey's character is gone, Nick, Daisy is gone. It's just him. He's coming out of the water, his bodyguard's to the side, hears a phone call, and he dives in, he comes out the water, and you can almost like hear like the splashes of the water coming off. And then as soon as he gets out, and you still hear the phone ringing, you can tell something is going wrong. And it cuts to different scenes where Tobey's character, Nick, he's at work, and then Daisy's character is somewhere else talking on the phone as well. And then all of a sudden, you see somebody in the background, you know that it's George, which is the other person that is about to shoot him, which none of us, like, he hasn't looked at the movie, I hadn't looked at the movie, so I didn't know it was going to happen. But when you do hear it, and it just pops, it's just like such a scene that's crazy, because throughout the whole entire movie, there's a theme about the green light, you know. And the green light for him, for Leonardo Dicaprio, for Gatsby, is the significance that he can have hope to reach the unattainable, which is reaching Daisy, which is reaching the other side of the bricks, which we'll talk about that more. But as soon as he gets shot, that's the first thing he looks at, the first thing he sees, and he just sees it slowly slipping away, but he still has levels of hope inside. Yeah. And it's just, it hits you, man. Like, you can feel it. And yeah.
One thing I want to add is crazy because, you know, throughout the whole movie you get attached to Gatsby. You get attached to him, and, you know, he's pretty much, he's done wrong. He's done wrong. And it was nice to know, like, okay, because when he got out of the pool, he was waiting on a call from Daisy, right? But, however, so anyway, the phone is ringing. He gets out the pool, and then he gets shot, right? And he dies. He thinks that it's Daisy calling him, but it's not Daisy. Who is it? Who's calling him?
It was Nick.
It was Nick. It was Nick that was calling. So he's dying, thinking his love is calling him. You know. It's good to think. It felt good for him to die with that, you know, on his mind, you know, instead of the actual truth, which is she didn't care at all.
We're gonna pause it right there. We're gonna pause it right there because we gotta at least talk about how it got to this point.
Right.
All right. So in the movie, you got Gatsby. He's the type of person that has all these things you see from the trailers. Of course, he's got all these luscious parties and. It's anything like what he's become, or anything that is in New York. You're like, okay, it's him. There's one scene that he's just going and speeding through town with Nick, which is Tobey McGuire's character, speeding. All the guy comes up along the side was the policeman. He says, "You need to pull over." He takes his card out, like the swag that he is. He just shows him his name. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Gatsby." And so you can see his character is just so defined in this world that he's got so much. But when you really start getting to the meat of it, you find out that Tobey's character has become a friend to him. But Gatsby really reached out for Nick, you know? Like, it wasn't that Nick just came and tried to bust up the party. Like, he had a personal invite to go to Gatsby party. So it was like, for some reason, Leonardo DiCaprio's character wanted to know more about Nick, which we find out later on, he really didn't have anybody in his corner. He didn't have any true friends. Everything was really a facade. Even though he had money, like, it was all about one set thing. It was about Daisy. He wanted somebody on his side that would be able to know the real him, or what he perpetuated as the real him. So he could be able to have somebody on this, like, I guess as a friend, as a companion, you know. But what ended up happening was, the deeper and deeper he got to Daisy, it almost seemed like the more his world just started unraveling. Because he became desperate to try to be with her. Yeah. Desperate to try to have her. And it was like, he got to a point where he was actually be able to meet her. You remember? With the scene in the rain. And like, he had set it up with Nick. He was like, Nick, can you please get her over to see me? She's your cousin. And can you please get her over here to actually just meet me for tea? He was just so nervous, which there's a part of the storyline that's kind of elapsed, which is like a 5-year time period, where Gatsby had known Daisy, and Gatsby left for war, and then she didn't know if he lived or died. She got married. Something happened. Then he comes back later, but she didn't know who it was. Okay, so he remembers everything, but she didn't know he was alive. So that's regardless of the fact. But, like, the first time they see each other again, which was that scene, he had, what happened with Nick? Because Nick had told him, okay, she's coming. And so Gatsby was just getting all nervous and joint. And until this part of the movie, he'd just been nothing but straight swag. He was just like all legit and everything. He got nervous. He got straight up nervous. He didn't know what to do. So Nick comes back in the house, and they had already set everything up. His house, Nick's house, looked nice just because of Gatsby. And got to the scene, and finally, he wasn't even in there. And we were like, where does Joker at? And so Daisy was like, did you do this all for me, Nick? I'm like, no, I'm your cousin. I ain't trying to get with you. So then all of a sudden you see the door just open up, or somebody knocking on the door. It's Leonardo Dicaprio character just walking in with rain all over his head. He was like, you know what, let's do this. Come on, Daisy. But no, it was such a really good scene, honestly, because it showed his, what's the word? Not vigor, but like, I don't know, he was just passionate, man.
Yeah, passionate. Yeah.
He was deeply passionate for her. And that was it. That was all that really mattered in his world. Mm-hmm. But that spiraled into, which happened later, them getting more acquainted, them getting the feel for each other, and them cheating. But now, her husband, who was Tom, he was an adulterer. He was the type of person that was all on other girls all the time, 24/7. He didn't necessarily abuse or do anything against Daisy, but he was really unfaithful. Daisy loved him at a certain point, but she wasn't like all for him. It was like he supplied everything she needed, but it wasn't any real passion like with Leonardo DiCaprio's character. So she was torn. But Leonardo DiCaprio character, he wanted so much more. He wanted all of her. He didn't want them to just go and flee and leave. He wanted to stay right where they were and actually just be in love and exist together in the world that he had made for her. She couldn't do it. What happened, Joe?
Well, this now, at this point, you know, your swag guy Gatsby, being the swag dude he is, like he tells Daisy, like, look, Daisy, we're not gonna run off. We're gonna stay here. We're gonna do the right thing. You know, you're just gonna have to tell your husband you never loved him. Right? Sounds simple, you know. But in Daisy's position, that's a hard thing to do. You know.
Yeah, it really was.
You know, that's her husband. You know, and so it was really like you could feel.
Oh my gosh, that was
the tension.
That was
in
a
the
tense
room.
scene, dude.
Because it was so tense. They had to break it up into 2 separate scenes.
True.
They had to break it up into 2 separate scenes. Okay, so you would think she would do it. She would tell him, you know, by one-on-one. No, she doesn't. There's Gatsby. Gatsby's, they're at the dinner table in their house. right? In their house. You know? And you got Gatsby up in there. Nick, the black-haired girl was, I forgot her name. And Daisy's husband, you know? Tom. It's Tom's house. You know? Tom's house, and you're gonna have another man in your house who's sleeping with your wife? What? But anyway, so much tension in the room, you could feel it, and you know, Gatsby's like, Daisy, tell him, let him know. And she choked, she couldn't do it. But after a while, you know, Gatsby kind of coaches her up a little bit, and you know, you could tell she's building up the confidence to tell him.
Mm-hmm.
But then,
oh man, I just thought about
you know, Tom, he sees it coming. He's like, no, this ain't going down. This ain't going down like that. So he's like, you know what? We're leaving. Let's go on a little trip. You know, and it's crazy. They're even racing to their destination.
Yeah, it's like a literal competition. So they were racing to the scene. And it gets to the point where you realize that Tom has been investigating Gatsby since he realized that Daisy was interested. And so because of that, he had kind of one-up Gatsby. Because when they finally get to their final destination, two things you realize. One, you realize that Gatsby is really vulnerable in the sense of, like, he'd do anything to make sure Daisy's there. And he's kind of freaking out because he's, like, trying to make everything perfect, everything work and line up. And it's like, it's not good enough for him to just run away with her. He's like, we're going to make a stand, and this love will carry us the rest of the way. You know, he's got a lot of hope. But second thing you realize is that Tom knows everything. And, I mean, even the things that he doesn't know, like, he's using it as fuel to break Daisy and Leonardo Dicaprio's character Gatsby apart. Right. And when the confrontation hits, and they finally really do actually go,
pushing those buttons,
like, Gatsby's character shows so much anger and so much passion that it almost scares everybody in the room. Everybody didn't know what he was really capable of doing, but it was just such a powerful scene. And I really urge you to go look at it, because from that point, they leave, and there's an accident that happens, and Gatsby is blamed for it, but he was wrongfully blamed for it. And two things from that, Daisy knows without a shadow of a doubt that Gatsby loves her, that he'll do anything to keep her, to take care of her, provide for her. But at the same time, she knows that he lied about a lot of different things. And so what happens is when they interact and they have this person that's killed and Gatsby blamed for it, she allows him to take the blame. And it really wasn't even his fault at all. She knows this. She's in complete knowledge of it. And at the same time, there's this plot that Tom has with another person to get Gatsby killed. And that's where we go full circle back to what really happened in Underturn. But with the meat of the story, to me, I think that Nick and Gatsby's character were the meat of the story. Because throughout the whole entire thing, you're starting to uncover who Gatsby really is. Like, what his character is all about. And he is honest with Nick about all of it. Eventually, he tells Nick the whole entire thing. He's so comfortable with himself that he's able to do this. And so his striving for greatness, it started when he was a little kid all the way to the point where he had nothing. And he attained everything he really wanted, but he still didn't have the one thing that he needed, which was her. And that's where everything what Joe was talking about, it goes full circle. When he dies, and at the point where he's dead and everybody's still blaming him for all this stuff, Daisy does not go back and stick up for him. She doesn't go and give him the recognition that, okay, he loved her, he did this, he did these great things. She just stays in the world that she's in and stays and keeps everything as a lie. And Nick's character, or Tobey McGuire's character, suffers because of this. Because he becomes addicted to alcoholism, all these different kind of anxieties from holding all these secrets and stuff. But he really knew who the real Gatsby really was. And all of it was really all built on a lie. And so what happens at the end, which is so powerful, is that the whole entire time, for Nick's character to be able to move on, his doctor tells him just write it out. and he writes this huge long book, which at the end he names just Gatsby. And then he goes back to the title. He's like, nah, the Great Gatsby. And to me, like, I think that was a really good thing, because even though Gatsby went through all the different things that he went through, and even though he lied all these different things, because of Tom's book, everything is brought full circle of what he was really truly capable of. Like how passionate he really was, how great he really was. And that was actually shown and exhibited through Tom's book. But at the same time, it helped Tom when he did it. But, I mean, what did you take from everything? Because you had a lot of different things where different scenes were, like, really deep to you.
Just about one thing, Nick says the Gatsby one scene. You've probably seen it in the previews and the trailers. He says, "You can't repeat the past." And Gatsby replies, "Surely you can." But
What's your take?
I feel like it comes to show just how dangerous it is, to kind of go back to the past and like rekindle old flames, and also there's a one quote he said that Nick said that talked about the green light that he was always reaching for, right? Talked about the green light. Said that it was behind him the whole time. I thought that was like deep.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah.
Like, it's really subtle, too.
He's trying to reach for something that he thinks is ahead, but really is behind him. It's crazy.
And ultimately, it kind of kills him.
Kills him.
I mean, I guess he's blessed for going through everything he went through as a man, but he's cursed in the sense of he was trying to reach something that he didn't need to reach for. He was already a good man on his own. I mean, it showed in his passion and his heart, but he tried to make things so perfect and so well for her that